Developing news right now in Ansonia. A very disturbing case. Two men are facing a number of animal cruelty charges after police say they had nearly a dozen dogs in need of urgent medical care. Channel 3 New Haven Bureau Chief Matt McFarland is revealing how investigators found them. Matt.
Well, Kara, Ansonia police tell us they were executing a search warrant on an unrelated criminal investigation when they came across that discovery. Now, they have charged two men with a number of animal cruelty charges. 30-year-old Javon Coverson and 26-year-old Asante Coverson, both charged with cruelty to animals, failure to comply with dog ownership requirements, and failure to comply with rabies control ordinances. Last Thursday, Ansonia detectives executed a search warrant at a home on Condon Drive. Police tell us they seized 11 dogs and 3 cats, describing many of the dogs as emaciated and in need of urgent medical care. Detectives also discovered a dead dog on the premises. Now, we're told several of the dogs were transported to an emergency animal clinic, and 2 of them had to be put down. The other dogs, we're told, are still recovering, and the city says its animal shelter is currently under quarantine for parvovirus since this incident. Now, Ansonia police say the investigation is ongoing and there could be more charges filed as detectives gather more evidence. We're live at the mobile newsroom in Ansonia. Matt McFarland, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.